Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast. I am your host, Trey Mendenhall. I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, if you're a previous listener to the podcast, thank you, and I welcome you back. And also, welcome if you're new. Thank you for checking out the podcast, as we are a podcast about anything and everything, whatever I may be feel led to talk about that week, we will talk about. And I know this week we will be wrapping up our NFL playoff um, series here on the podcast, as we will be reviewing Super Bowl 60. But before we get into that topic, I want to just say thank you for those who may have been listening to the previous podcast. I want to thank you for the prayers for my family and I, as we all were kind of down for a week or two with the sickness. If you want to know exactly what was going on, you can go listen to the previous podcast, as I will spare you the boring details about that. But I didn't speak for all of us, as uh, we are very thankful for the prayers. This would just say, just continue to pray for us as well. I would appreciate that. I know we all would. Also, make sure on the whatever podcasting platform you listen to us on, just please make sure you like the podcast on there, follow or subscribe to us on that podcasting platform. Comment, rate us as well, as that help obviously our exposure um, to a bigger audience. As to be honest, we do already have a few international listeners, and I wanted to say hello to those people. The fact that you somehow found this podcast uh, has to be God. It's incredible. I appreciate you guys for listening. I hope you continue to tune in. And also, we do have a Facebook page, which is the only social media platform we're on right now. It's the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast um, Facebook page. You can just search us up on Facebook and find us there. Uh, we you can just there. I usually post when we upload a new episode, and also if you have your notifications enabled on your podcasting platform, like I know Amazon Music. Since we're on YouTube, you are on YouTube. I know whenever we upload a new episode on those platforms, they do send out a notification letting you know when we have a new episode out. So that also is also a good way to know when we go live, which is every Wednesday. If you're especially if you're new and you haven't been listening for a few episodes, um, just but especially if you're new, just go back and listen to all of the rest of our episodes we have so far. Hopefully we can continue to pump out these episodes and make good content and content people want to listen to, and content that's edifying, and also content that, I guess, let you know the real reason why we all are here, which is Jesus, and to serve and to know him and to make him known. Um, so uh, I know it's a lot of rambling. Um, Also, I guess before we move on to the topic of the day, as I said before, we are all available on pretty much every podcasting platform that is out there. But if we are not, just let me know either through the Facebook page or comment on, like, I know you can comment on Spotify or the YouTube videos. Um, just let me know if for some reason a certain podcasting platform that you listen to podcasts on, if for some reason we are not on there, just let me know and I will do my best to get us on there. And also, if you have like a Echo Dot and Alexa enabled device, you can also through that you can just ask Alexa or Echo to play the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast, and the podcast will play through that as well, which is pretty cool. I know I did that the other day, just to see if we were, and we are, and it was pretty cool, to be honest. That I was able to that we were able to listen to a little bit of the podcast through the Alexa enabled device, the Echo Dot, which I think is the most popular one. But all right, enough of me rambling on. Let's get to the main topic here, which is Super Bowl 60. It was this past Sunday at 6:30. And Seattle came out on top 29-13 over the New England Patriots. Really, the first half was a kind of a pure defensive battle. I know New England for pretty much all the entire first half could not do anything. I think they had 51 yards total yards in the first half, which is like the third lowest total yardage in the first half of the Super Bowl in history. In Seattle, um, and they were able to move the ball some, like in the first on the very first drive there in the first quarter. They able to get the ball down the field, but kind of ended up stalling out. I think right outside the red zone there, and Jason Myers ended up hitting a field goal, making it 3-0. Really, the game was over from there. Jason Myers, he ended up also in that first half anyway, hitting two more going, which made the halftime score 9-0. And then the start of the third quarter, Seattle was able to drive the ball downfield again and score. Able to have Jason Myers kick another field goal, 13-0. And really, it was. And to be honest, New England still wasn't able to do anything. I mean, their O line was not able to protect Drake May at all. Not like, I guess, not like he honestly helped them do very much. To be honest, going into the Super Bowl, the game, Drake May had been sacked 15 times, which was 4 away from the record of 19, which was the record going through the game that, which was Joe Burrow held the sack record for most sacks in a postseason by 19 times that year. They ended up going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Rams a few years back. And it was like most all postseason, it was more of the same. The Patriots O line was not able to protect him very well at all. Ended up being sacked 6 times, which obviously ends up means he is now the record holder for being the most sacked QB in postseason history, in a single postseason history anyway. With 21, he was sacked 21 times. And when um, when your quarterback is sacked 21 times in a 4-game span, that is a massive issue. And both and the left side of that O line, both the right guard and left guard and left tackle, both rookies, Will Campbell, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name, but they were not able to. They weren't able to block a cold, I guess. But but with going into the fourth quarter with 13:24 left, finally someone scored a touchdown, and that was Seattle. Sam Darnold hit A.J. Barner. He was wide open. He was wide open a few times during the game for a 16-yard touchdown, put Seattle up 19-0. But then on the following drive, the Patriots offense finally decided to come alive and wake up and play. When Drake May hit Mac Hollins for a 35-yard touchdown, making it 19-7. There, to be honest, I thought maybe New England might be able to come back and make a game of this, but like on I think the very next drive, Drake May was basically strip sacked for a fumble with 4:27 left. Well, that one ended up being ruled a INT, pick 6, and that was later in the game. Excuse me. That ended up putting Seattle up 29-7, and I believe on the previous drive before that, Seattle ended up kicking another field goal, which part of the Jason Myers 5-for-5 day. He ended up setting the single season point record in NFL history, which included both the postseason and regular season. I know they don't always do that. Usually those stats are separated. He ended up finishing with 205 points scored, overtaking LaDainian Tomlinson, who had scored 198. I believe that might have been what, '06. Was that the year he set the all-time the record for the most touchdowns scored in a single season by a running back? Those Charger teams were special. It's unfortunate they weren't able to bring any kind of hardware home during those years, but um, but there, I mean, 29-7, and New England ended up going down and scoring again, um, making it 29-13, and that ended up being the final score. But just to be honest, I guess going into the game, New England all postseason long, their offense has struggled. Their defense has carried them. As I believe they were the number one ranked defense in the postseason. Out of all those teams that made the postseason this year, that allowed them to stay in games, especially when the O line wasn't able to keep Drake May upright. And Drake May, to be honest, wasn't. I guess you can definitely tell that this was his first postseason as there. I mean, it's a different type of pressure as when you're going into the postseason, when your season is on the line. That basically, if you lose, you're going home. Unlike in the regular season, you can live to play for another week. It'll be interesting to see what this team does next year, to be honest, and what he does if he is able to get back into that position next year in the future. Is will he take this postseason's failures and realize what he did and work on them and help to capitalize and make those, I guess, not be able to make those mistakes going forward in the future. I'm saying he has to be perfect, but because no one's perfect, but he definitely has to play better, and I guess his offensive line definitely has to protect him more, and has to protect him better because like every time you drop back, I mean, I'm sure that didn't help either. Every time you drop back, there's always a defender in your face, and you feel like you're not able to do anything, not able to move the ball at all. And again, for I don't know, maybe like the third time this postseason, he was the leading rusher on the team for five attempts, 37 yards, threw for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and the one pick, well, obviously was a pick six, but the one when they were driving downfield and kind of Seattle at that point had kind of backed off. Like he seen a receiver downfield and just threw it to that spot instead of leading his receiver to a point in the field, and that might have been like the easiest interception of Julian Love's career, to be honest. But also in this, Drake May was the second youngest QB to play in this game, uh, only behind Dan Marino, who was 23 years old, and same as Drake May, but he was 35 days younger than Drake May was Sunday. Now to Seattle, and the MVP of the game ended up being Kenneth Walker III, who, in my opinion, really opened this game up and started to help Seattle pull away there. Then started the second quarter as at halftime he had 94 yards and 14 rushing attempts. And I think Seattle there they had outgained New England at that point. I think had over 100 yards of total yards on them. That just tells you how lopsided of a game this was, really. And if New England's defense was not as good as it is, and if you didn't have people like Christian Gonzalez who stopped 2 touchdowns, like the one early on, he jumped out and dove, put his hand out, and the ball ended up hitting it. Sam Darnold had his receiver down. Pretty much, if that ball is completed, that's a touchdown. And this is even more of a lopsided score. But um, Kenneth, Kenneth Walker, ever since um, Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in the divisional round, he definitely stepped up. I know he's a free agent. I'd be shocked if Seattle doesn't try to bring him back. Yeah, after all, he was a Super Bowl MVP, the first running back to be Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis in Super Bowl 32, which was Denver versus Green Bay. I know that was Green Bay's second Super Bowl in a row, and Denver's first Super Bowl since the late 80s, I believe, and also ended up being their first Super Bowl win of John Elway's career as well in Denver. But that just tells you, I guess, how big of a game Kenneth Walker had with him being getting the Super Bowl MVP. Seattle, like I said before, had six total sacks. To be honest, the entire defense could have won MVP with how great they played. And we got Sam Darnold. He played. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over. And for a guy who had 20 turnovers in the regular season, he didn't turn the ball over once this postseason, which was a tremendous help to that team because no matter what, this like with the New England side, turning the ball over multiple times can put your great defense behind the eight ball. And then with Sam Darnold, what a story, to be honest. Being drafted by the Jets, the first quarterback taken in 2018. He is now the first quarterback in that QB class to win a Super Bowl. In that class, you had Baker Mayfield. He was drafted number 1 overall by Cleveland, he's now in Tampa Bay. Sam Darnold was 2. He was picked 3rd overall in that draft. He was drafted by the Jets. Josh Allen 7 with the Bills. Sam Darnold obviously now with the Seahawks. Josh Rosen, I think he was at 10. He's pretty much washed out of the league. He was drafted by the Cardinals. Then the very last pick of the first round that year was Lamar Jackson, and you know how that's worked out. Really, all but Josh Rosen really has had postseason success. Obviously, Sam Darnold has had the most with now winning the Super Bowl, and he also becomes the first USC quarterback to not only start a Super Bowl but to win one. And the amount of well-known people to play quarterback at USC over the years, like Matt Leinart there in the early 2000s with that dynasty there with Pete Carroll, who ironically helped lead Seattle to their first Super Bowl there in Super Bowl 48, which was 12 years ago, I believe, 13 years ago. And then you have Mark Sanchez, obviously. He played at USC, went to New York Jets, had tremendous success there early on with Rex Ryan and Santonio Holmes, Bart Scott there in those early 2010 teams making it to the AFC championship game, being Tom Brady, Patriots at home. They had, and then kind of quickly fell off. Hopefully he can get his life turned around and back going to the right direction. Pray that he does. But it is kind of somewhat a little bit of a history of USC quarterbacks anyway. It's just honestly incredible the fact that Sam Darnold was the first USC quarterback to win and start a Super Bowl. But his journey, obviously, it's pretty incredible. There in New York, kind of got washed out in New York there because he was there his first 3 years, then ended up getting traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 2021 6th-round pick, then a 2022 second and 4th-round pick. Then he was in Carolina for a couple years, then end up signing with the 49ers, which uh, probably, honestly, he talked about being how much his time in San Francisco helped him become a better quarterback, which led to him signing with the Vikings the following year in 2024. Who the offense coordinator, ironically, there ends in Minnesota that year was Clint Kubiak, who ended up being his offensive coordinator this year as well in Seattle. It was really his breakout season there in Minnesota. Threw for 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, had 102.5 passer rating. Went to his first Pro Bowl. Also, the Vikings that year finished 14-3, which the Seahawks also ended up finishing 14-3 in the regular season this year. But they were but this year, obviously, he was able to lead Seattle all the way to the Super Bowl this year. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that with Minnesota, which obviously Seattle took. This is a big risk for them, and now it's paid off after he signed that 3-year, a $100.5 million deal. This past off season, big risk, and it certainly paid off big time for them as they are now champions of the NFL. It'll be interesting to see, I guess, honestly, what Seattle does going forward, as they next year will not have offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, as he goes to Las Vegas to be the Raiders head coach. Most likely will have rookie quarterback Francisco Mendoza there from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers as their starting quarterback next year, unless they keep Gino or somebody to help and decide to let Mendoza sit on the bench to learn the game, as obviously there is a learning curve between the college and the NFL game. But we'll see. And also, well, now that Kubiak's not going to be in Seattle and Sam Darnold doesn't have him as he had the last 2 seasons, will Sam Darnold, take a step back, or will he continue to progress and I guess kind of show that he has finally figured this game out? Everything has finally started to slow down for him, and but I guess, to be honest, Sam's career kind of parallels, in my opinion, Alex Smith's career, as he was drafted, I think, in '05. It was the same year Aaron Rodgers slipped to the middle 20s where Green Bay drafted him. Because I know it was San Francisco had the first pick that year, and there was a lot of talk between if it was going to be Alex Smith or Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith, he went to Utah, and whose his coach there was Urban Meyer, but this was Utah in the Mountain West, kind of the start of their uptick as a program in college football. And then Aaron Rodgers was obviously he was a California kid. He went to Cal, and obviously that was probably one of his, if not his dream, to play quarterback for the 49ers. I believe that's where he grew up there in California. I'm not 100% sure, but it's crazy to think what would have happened if maybe those careers were end up being flipped. But I know Alex Smith there for years he struggled until he was able to until the right coach came along, which was Jim Harbaugh. I know he came when he got hired. He was at Stanford with Andrew Luck in the Stanford Cardinal. He had Stanford, a program not known for their football prowess, or not known to be a powerhouse anyway. In the NCAA was able to turn it around, get them into New Year's Six bowls back when the BCS was still a thing. Able to bring them to national relevance, and then go to the NFL. And I know he was the starting quarterback a couple years. before Kaepernick ended up taking over. But I know when Harbaugh uh, took over, and I know they finally Hug Smith was able to. It seemed like the game finally was able to slow down for him, and he was able to um, become a pretty good quarterback, to be honest, and not just there in San Francisco, but he ended up going to. I remember he went to Kansas City before they drafted Mahomes. He was pretty good there with Andy Reid. He was pretty decent there in Washington as well before he ended up having that nasty leg injury as well. But um, anyway, it's honestly when you, I guess, when you see someone who was pretty much labeled a bust, finally figuring that out, or not just in football but in life, able to figure something out like that, it's pretty awesome to see, and it's pretty. I guess to be honest, it's pretty easy to root for that guy type of person. Obviously, I'm sure not everybody is happy that Seattle won, like the Patriots teams, but fans. But I'm sure there's a good chunk of people that are, and it's a heck of a story and make a good movie. And then, which what I believe Seattle is now 2-2. They're 500 in Super Bowls. They beat their wins. Honestly, came with having a dominant defense. The Legion of Boom there in Super Bowl 48 when they demolished the Denver Broncos. I believe 43-8. The Peyton Manning led Broncos, by the way. And then this game, when their defense pretty much manhandled New England here, and they end up they lost. And their losses, one was Super Bowl 40 against the Steelers, excuse me, uh, in Detroit. I believe they lost 21-10 that one. On that team, you had Matt Hasselbeck as the quarterback, Sean Alexander, Mike Holmgren as their head coach. Then the second went, and then Super Bowl 49, which was they had gone back to back Super Bowls, ended up losing to New England, and the whole Malcolm Butler, Marshawn Lynch, should they ran, shouldn't they have ran fiasco, and then New England, with their appearance there now, the team leading um, team leader in the most Super Bowl appearances by a single team in NFL history, and they also have now with this their most losses in Super Bowl history. I believe. Let's see, because Tom and Bill won 6, then they lost to the Bears, the '85 Bears. They lost to in Super Bowl 31 to the Packers. And then they lost to Eli's Giants twice, and then they lost to the Nick Foles Eagles, and then they lost this past weekend. So I believe they have 12 Super Bowl appearances, so they're 506-6. And the franchise is obviously still looking for their first ever Super Bowl win without Tom Brady as quarterback and Bill Belichick as head coach. As those two, obviously, they brought a ton of hardware to New England. They're still looking to get over hump and be able to do it without those two. Which I really honestly, if you go back and listen to my breakdowns of the both sides of both conferences before the playoffs started, this was my Super Bowl prediction. It was Seattle versus New England, but I had New England coming out on top. Obviously, that kind of stinks that they didn't win. I was super close. As in my entire bracket, there was only one game that I got wrong, and I believe that was the Bears losing to the Rams. I believe I had the Bears winning um, that game, but obviously that didn't happen there as the Bears. I guess they bared. But anyway, that is the end of our Super Bowl, our NFL playoff uh, playoff breakdown, predictions, reviews portion of the podcast. As next week we'll be talking about something else. If there is any topic you would like me to cover, or anything like that, um, just shot, just post it in the comments. Let me know, if uh, and if it's something I guess feel led to talk about, I will. And um, just also before we end the podcast, just remember that as John 3:16 says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Um, just remember that Jesus came so that we may have everlasting life, so that we can have be made new. As behold, all things have passed away. The old things passed away, and the new things have come. And that is only because of him and because of his sacrifice for us on the cross. Um, Remember, he loves you, he cares about you, and that if you were the only person in the entire world who was going to accept his sacrifice, he would go to the cross again for you. That is how much he loves you, and that is how much he cares for you. Anyway, I just want to thank you for joining me again here today on episode 8 of the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast. I appreciate you, and just also, if this podcast here today or any of our podcasts have touched you or impacted you in any way, please feel free to share, as that would also help us be able to reach new people and reach a new audience, um, so we can continue to grow our audience for the podcast. Anyway, we will talk to you next time on the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast.